So I wanted to do back-to-back videos looking at Jen's slip-ups and then Stefan's slip-ups. And I know that I've covered some of these with Jen in the past, but I did want to pull together what was out there. I realised though that I've probably missed quite a few clips here. I will apologise for my absence over the last couple of days. We've had some really hot weather here in Australia, heading up to about around 40 degrees, which in American terms, in Fahrenheit, I think that's about 110 degrees. Either way, super hot. I've got really poor cooling here in my house, meaning that I've had a few nights with very little sleep. So hence the reason I've not really got any content out over the last couple of days, and I suspect this one may be missing several clips just because I started going through these yesterday when I was utterly exhausted from the heat, and I do think I've missed quite a few. So I'd really love it if there's any that I've missed. Leave me a comment below, and I'm more than happy to do a follow-up video looking at more of Jen's slip-ups. Hopefully I've covered some of the main ones here. Now I've not just covered slip-ups, but I've covered instances where she's given answers that certainly made me raise my eyebrows. These fit in with my previous video where I questioned whether Jen was perhaps psychic, because I think her blurting these things out to me suggests guilty knowledge, and I did want to highlight them again. So with that said, this is probably going to be a slightly shorter video than usual, but let's just jump in and have a look at these slip-ups from Jen.
We're gonna pull one more and then we're gonna have the dog sniff it out again and see if we can get another track going. Yeah. All right.
Can I get you like the last outfit she was wearing?
Has it been like with other clothes and all that, like your clothes?
It got mixed in with clean clothes and dirty clothes.
What do you think?
Is it on the floor there in the bathroom? It's in the laundry basket.
Were the other clothes not good enough?
No.
We just try to collect separate ones and then we separate all of them, just in case one was contaminated, we have something else we can use without having to come and bother you guys.
I was just thinking on Sunday, the last week we had her. Actually, I don't remember, but Sunday, she had a bunch of
We've all heard this one, we've all commented on it, we know that she said it. She talked about Sunday as either the last day we had her or the last thing we had her in, because the audio is kind of crappy there. My translation is the last time we had her, essentially. So that's a huge stuff up, because of course, according to the narrative, Stefan drove Maddie to school on Monday. So it wasn't the last time they had her, or whatever the equivalent of that is that Jen was trying to say. The last thing we had her in, the last day we had her, the last time we had her. It wasn't the last whatever. She's talking about Maddie's party dress. We know that because of the way she does that thing with her hands, even though the audio is really crap. So that is Jen's first major slip-up.
When was the last time you physically saw?
Wednesday, 11 o'clock. I'm sorry, Sunday, 11 o'clock.
Sunday when you sent her to bed?
To bed. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Again, this one is nothing new, but I wanted to really look at it and basically talk about Jen and this new job that she was doing, because she said that she was doing that job for less than a week. She's also spoken, well, we've been told that Maddie was staying at Yolanda's because Jen was doing this new job. So, did Jen last see Maddie on Wednesday? Because, as I've mentioned several times now, she's so vague on the details of the Sunday night. Not only is she so vague on the details of the Sunday night, but she gives, I think we counted about 5 different versions of what occurred on the Sunday night, all within a half-hour period of time. So I have serious doubts about whether or not she saw Maddie Sunday night. I suspect that Maddie was already, I don't believe she was already deceased, because obviously there would be issues with rigor in terms of the camera footage the next day. But I do believe that Maddie may well have been passed out upstairs, drugged out upstairs. My belief, I'm not saying that is what happened, that is just what I believe, based on the absence of detail from Jen, based on the fact that Maddie supposedly took her meds at 8:30 at night, which to me suggests that she wouldn't still be awake at 10:30 at night anyway, even if she had just a regular dose of her meds.
We sat in my room for a while, hung out. He discussed having to reset his phone even though he didn't want to, or no, not reset his phone.
Again, this is nothing new, but I just want to point out something super important here. Aside from whatever time was spent in the morning before Stefan headed out to drive around with Maddie in the car, the only time that Jen and Stefan spent together during the day was this period of time when Stefan reset his phone. Now, I have done the timelines. There are three videos that you can go and look at that cover the timeline pretty extensively, but from memory, I believe that Stefan arrived back at the townhouse about 10 to 12, or around 12ish. The factory reset was done around 10 past 12, and then he headed out a bit later on. Altogether, there was only about a 40-minute period of time where Jen and Stefan were together throughout that entire day, and during that period of time is when Stefan reset his phone. I can't help thinking that Jen encouraged him to do this, and that this was part of the, well, we know it was part of the cover-up, but whether it was just his idea or whether she was involved, the fact that she has slipped up and discussed him having to reset his phone makes you question. And I know there's the whole, she relays the conversation of him saying, "Oh no, what did I do? I accidentally reset my phone." But when Jen says it, she doesn't sound very convincing to me. She sounds like she is reciting something that is very well rehearsed. Once again, just my opinion, but definitely a major slip up here, her talking about having to reset his phone.
I want to, in my heart, I know you're showing me what you're showing me, and you're telling me he threw away her backpack. And I want to assume the worst. I don't want to assume the worst. I want to assume that she's still alive, that she's out there, that he's hidden her somewhere.
So she slips up here before correcting herself. She says, "I want to assume the worst, I want to think," and then she stops and says, "I don't want to assume the worst." Now, sometimes when we are attempting to lie, our brain basically hijacks it and blurts out the truth. Was Jen inadvertently blurting out the truth here? She was trying to say that she didn't want to assume the worst. She didn't want to think Maddie was deceased. But she knew that Maddie was deceased, and so it came out as, "I want to assume the worst." even though that's not what she was trying to say. It could have just been a slip of the tongue, but sometimes when someone has guilty knowledge, these slips are quite meaningful. And if her brain is going, well, no, you don't really believe that Maddie's alive, and she was going to say something other than, I want to assume the worst. I want to assume that she's safe. I want to assume that she'll come home. But her brain just flicked a switch and went, you can't assume these things, you're going to assume the worst because this is what happened. Once again, this is simply my opinion, but there's a lot of cases where guilty people who have been interviewed do have exactly these kinds of slip-ups. There's this subconscious thing that goes on in the brain where the brain just has to come out with the truth. Sometimes it just comes out and you can't stop it.
I would like to think that that's the case. She never liked being alone. She never liked sleeping alone. Ever since she was a baby, like, I tried sleep training her and that was a complete failure. I just had to learn that she had to sleep with me and she wanted to be with me all the time. So, like, even now, like...
Now, there's nothing here in terms of Jen telling us what happened to Maddie. But what I find interesting is that whole section there where she's talking about Maddie always wanting to sleep with someone. She was saying all that in the past tense. She never liked sleeping alone. She always had to sleep with someone. And I think I'm paraphrasing here because I'm once again being slightly distracted. But essentially, she's just given the whole spiel about Maddie not liking sleeping on her own in the past tense. That says a lot to me. And yes, while there is no snoring dog tonight, that scrabbling noise in the background is my big dog. She's got the evening fidgets, which is the other thing that quite often goes on here in this channel.
For the longest life, even though he treated her well, I still looked at him on, like side-eye, like making sure, like, is that normal? Is this okay? That looks normal. Okay. I wanted to make sure that nothing was happening and that I was missing something, but I was.
Again, she says, I wanted to make sure that nothing was happening and that I was missing something. Major leakage again here. Essentially, she meant to say, and that I wasn't missing something. But here, she is admitting that perhaps she was a little bit lax as a parent and wasn't paying enough attention, and that at some point in time she became aware of it. She was missing something, and she knows she was missing something. Once again, it could just be a major slip-up, and she didn't mean to say it that way, but like I said, sometimes the brain sabotages what you say and forces the truth out, even though you're trying to avoid giving the truth. So, take this as you will. Maybe it's just a inadvertent slip-up and it means nothing, or maybe this is an admission of her saying that essentially she was missing the fact that they were sleeping together, but at some point in time she became aware of it. Let me know your thoughts on this one.
I think at one point you guys interviewed me, and when you guys showed me the picture of her, I believed the sexual stuff, but I didn't want to believe that he had done anything evil to her. I'm like, no, what if he did this stuff fine, but what if she's still missing out there? What if...
I think that one actually does trump the Woody Allen comment. What if he did this to her fine? In her words, him SAing her daughter wasn't evil. I think that there's not much more I can say about that, really. Jen said it herself. She didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with what he was doing with her daughter. It wasn't evil. And yes, this is one of those classic lines that we've all commented on. I don't know how many times I've mentioned it, but like I said, this video is about pulling together some of the bigger slip-ups that Jen made. And boy, is this one of them.
What has your communication been like with his father since this?
I've limited contact over the last 2 days because I know too much and I don't want to tell them anything.
You don't want to tell them what we've told you, or you don't want to tell them what you know?
No, I don't want to tell them what you guys have told me. I don't want to share any.
Now, I don't know if when I unzipped this file it got out slightly out of sync, but it kind of mostly is in timing, right in the right time. But I just found it fascinating how she switched it all off just then. She's all red in the face, even her nose was a bit red, and then she puts her glasses back on and suddenly she's just switched off the emotion, which is I just found that utterly mind-blowing. It's like business as usual. But of course, aside from the body language, and I think I'm going to have to go through this whole interview now and have a look at all her body language like that. But aside from that, she's saying that she hasn't had contact with Chris because she knows too much. And he pulls her up on it in terms of, what do you mean by you know too much? And then she backpedals a bit and says, because of what you guys told me. But I can't help thinking that there's a little bit of a bit of a guilty slip up there also. Although that said, I believe that Chris did get roped into helping them out somewhat without being given the full story, and that I think that he's not as innocent in all this either. I don't believe that Stearns would have told him the truth of what occurred, but I think that he may have felt that he was protecting his son from something way less nefarious and helped him out when he probably shouldn't have. But if you look at some of my other videos that I've done on Chris Stearns and Deb Stearns, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But here, her talking about she knows too much, so she doesn't want to talk to Chris and Deb. To me, whether it was meant to come out that way or not, it certainly was a red flag to me.
And he did tell, I did question that. I was like, when I asked him where he searched and he said 182, I said, why? That's nowhere where she would be. And he didn't give me a clear answer, and I don't know why I didn't push it. I just thought he was being stupid and oblivious, because I don't see him as the smartest man. Like, I don't. I let him do what he does, but I don't trust a lot of his, is the word judgment? I'm not sure, but I just don't trust that he makes the smartest decisions sometimes. Like,
another doozy, which the detective did pull her up on. I let him do what he wants. Now, when he questions her about it, she comes up with some inane thing of, well, if he says he's going to go to the shop, I just let him go. But when she came out with it, she paused significantly quite straight afterwards, which to me says she knows she effed up and she shouldn't have said that. And she does fumble around with her words a bit after that before basically regaining her momentum with what she's saying. So to me, I think that was definitely a major slip up for Jen. I think it meant exactly what we think it meant, based on her reaction after she said it. And I think when he pulled her up, she was slightly taken aback because she wasn't expecting them to pull her up on it. I think she thought that she skirted around that one quite well, but we know this detective's right on the ball and he nailed her for it. And let's be realistic here. If she was just meaning something as insignificant as I let him come and go to the shops and go and do whatever he likes that way, why the pause afterwards? Why the stumbling with the words afterwards if it did just have an innocent meaning? Let me know your thoughts on this one.
I need you to tell me what you think happened to her.
I think he killed her that night.
How?
I don't know. Could it probably be possible that he drugged her? Could he have choked her? I just don't know how you kill someone and don't leave a mess or don't leave evidence, or I mean, was there a mess? Was there evidence? I haven't gone upstairs. I don't know what you guys I barely went into the house today, so I don't know.
This is one of those many instances where Jen blurts something out and then realises that she probably shouldn't have said it, and then questions the detectives. Well, was this the case? So she's essentially said, this is how I think he did it because he didn't leave a mess, there's no evidence. And then she asks them, well, was there a mess? Or was there evidence? Whichever one it was that she just asked them. Because I think she's realised that, oops, how am I supposed to know that when I've said that I've not been upstairs? I'm not supposed to know anything about what happened. I shouldn't be saying that there was no mess, there was no evidence. I think this is a huge, huge slip up from Jen. And I'm actually surprised that they didn't nail her over it.
But if she is dead and it was done upstairs, I could just only imagine that he choked her. I don't know how else you would kill someone and not leave a mess.
How do you think he got her out?
I have no idea, because roommates come in and out of the house at any given point in the morning and we don't know their schedules. They can come in at any time. You guys showed me a picture, I think, of him or her in the car at 7:30 in the morning. My roommate left the house. She's the one who leaves the earliest. She left at 7:45. So like, what if he had waited a little longer? She would have caught him with carrying a body out of the house. How did he do that without being caught or seen?
Now, the thing I noticed while she was saying that was that she was carefully watching the detectives as she was saying it. So she initially says, we don't know our roommates' schedules, and then she moves on to saying that the roommate left at 7:45. Had he left it a bit longer, she might have caught him. And while she is relaying that, she is watching the detectives and reading their body language. You can see her mostly watching Detective Kevin, is it? But she does also flip across and check out the other detective a few times as well. She is giving herself away here, if you ask me. I think this is a huge slip up by, first of all, saying we don't know their schedules, because who cares if Jen knows their schedules if she's got nothing to do with it? The question should be, does Stefan know their schedules? But then her talking about it being close timing, the fact that she is closely watching the detectives while she's saying that, to me says she wants to know if the flatmates heard anything or saw anything, or if they have any additional knowledge about what happened that morning.
I think she was killed Sunday night into Monday morning. I'm thinking he carried her out of the house. I don't know how he didn't get caught by any of my roommates or no one heard.
Okay, again, I think this is a slip up on Jen's part. She is going by the notion that no one heard anything, no one saw anything. Is this because she's questioned the roommates? Or is this because she knows that for a fact, because maybe she was a lookout? I know that's probably more speculation than is fair. I have no evidence of that, but I do have questions when it comes to her making comments like this, where she's so certain that nobody was aware of what was going on. Nobody witnessed it. Nobody heard anything. And, I mean, face it, if she did ask the flatmates if they saw anything or heard anything that morning, that is enough of an admission of guilt, if you ask me anyway, because the narrative was that he took Maddie to school. So, if she has asked the flatmates this, don't forget that Stefan was arrested after they locked down the townhouse, meaning that there probably hasn't been a lot of time for conversation between her and the flatmates since discovering that he was being arrested. So if she is so certain that nobody saw anything or nobody heard anything, that means she's found this out prior to Stefan being arrested, prior to anyone knowing for certain that he was involved. Either that, or bold as she just believes that he got away with it, no witnesses. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Anyway, let's just jump on to the next one. Now, I should probably mention all these ones where I'm speculating here. Obviously, this is simply my thoughts on it, and I welcome any other opinions on it. I love when people really think it through and find where there are probably mistakes in my logic, because it just challenges me to look a little bit harder and think a little bit harder.
So him leaving early in the morning and driving around aimlessly somewhere, I feel like he stashed the body at that time. When he came back and then left again. But see, it's daytime. Like, how could you move a body or move something in daytime and not be seen? But like, I feel like he went back to check to make sure he did a good job, or to move the body again. I don't know.
So she starts saying, I feel like he went back to change something. But let's call a spade here. She has essentially, and I know I've said this in a previous video, but she's basically said exactly what Stefan did. And once again, she's closely watching Detective Kevin, because obviously he's leading the interrogation. She's closely watching him for his reaction. And I do think that him basically putting her in this situation of, you speculate on what you think might happen has basically got her to admit a few truths because she wasn't prepared for this strategy. And she's so calm and calculated when she's saying this. It's like she's not talking about her daughter at all. It's like she's talking about someone having stolen the last piece of chocolate from the fridge, and this is her sleuthing over who she thinks did it and when they did it. Because that's about as much emotion as is involved. But I think definitely there's a bit of slippage here. I think she's showing us some guilty knowledge, because in all these things where they've basically got her to be detective and say what she thinks happened, she's essentially told them what happened.
No. No. He was acting very normal, sitting on the computer chair, chatting away with me, talking about not resetting his phone, updating his phone.
So that's the second time that she's slipped up and mentioned him talking about resetting his phone. And it's interesting, like I said, that this is the one time then when they were together. And when you listen to the fluency of the way she is relaying the situation, I do suspect that she is actually telling them what happened. She is relaying that they were together, they were chatting, and then he was talking about resetting his phone. And then she catches herself and stops herself and says, no, well, not that. But when someone is lying, that's when you get the lack of fluency in their speech. But here, the tempo is fine, the intonation is fine. She sounds like she's just telling you exactly what happened. Be like me saying I went into the kitchen and I went and poured myself a drink. Very matter of fact. Major slip up, and once again I think it to me indicates that perhaps there was a conversation between them beforehand. Now the next one is one that I actually mentioned recently in the last couple of days because it stood out to me, but I think this is a significant one, and I think it's worth listening to and considering the implications of what she's actually saying.
Now, if your daughter had been awake, would she come in and say goodbye to you before school or not? Just let you sleep?
I would have hoped she would have come by and say goodbye to me. I can't remember if this is one of the first times that Stefan actually took her to school, so I would have hoped she would have said good night, but I'm not sure.
So it is very, very quiet. But after them asking her, they're talking about the morning. And they asked, would she normally come in and say goodbye to you before she went to school? Or good morning? And first of all, she does say that. Well, I would have hoped she would say that. And then when she repeats it, she does, this is one of the first times he took her to school. And then she says, I would have hoped she would have said good night. Well, Jen, we weren't talking about nighttime. Was this just an unintentional slip-up? Or was this a bit of a leakage of some truth here. Did Maddie not say goodnight to you on the Sunday night, Jen, because you didn't see Maddie on the Sunday night? It definitely fits in with my speculation that Jen didn't see Maddie on the Sunday night, that there is nothing particularly concrete in any of the things that she says about the Sunday night that would indicate to me that she saw Maddie. She couldn't even remember what Maddie was wearing. She came up with, 5 different stories, and now we have her slipping and saying, I would have hoped she would have said goodnight to me, or along those lines. Really makes you wonder, doesn't it? So like I said, this is quite a short one. I think I've covered all these clips at separate times in various videos where I've been using them for another reason, and I've stopped and said, well, hang on, listen to this again. I definitely thought it was worth putting them all together in one video. I know there's definitely at least one that I've missed though, but I'm sure there are more, so feel free to leave comments below and let me know other times that Jen has slipped up that I may have missed. There's one from like the last couple of videos, which I know I've skipped over it while I've been looking for these clips, and right now it's completely slipping my mind also. So yeah, let me know any that I've missed, any that you've picked up on that I've not mentioned here. It would be very interesting to know where else Jen has slipped up. And let me know what you think about the ones that I've looked at in this video. So thanks for listening. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like button. That gets these videos out into the algorithm, gets them being seen by more people, helps me to grow my channel. And of course, please leave a comment. I look forward to reading all your comments. I apologise, I can't respond to every comment. I do my best, but I definitely read all your comments. So thanks, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Give a fuck about me, 'cause